Question, do you ever feel like you're misunderstood? Do you feel like your motives are misinterpreted? Well, if you've ever felt that way, or if you feel that way, you can admit it's frustrating, it's agitating, it can at times be incredibly discouraging. The question I think we need to ask and answer is, what do you do about it? Well, if you want that answer, I want you to stay locked in on this video, because I want to teach you 3 truths you need to understand if you're going to manage being misunderstood. Check out this video. You know, I was reading a scripture, and right now in my devotional time, I'm studying the book of 1 Thessalonians, and I saw something that Paul said that really kind of triggered something for me, honestly. And as Paul's writing to these group of believers in Thessalonica, called Thessalonians, but they're in Thessalonica, he says something in chapter 2, starting at verse 3, and I want you to hear what he says. He says, "For our exhortation did not come from error or uncleanness, nor was it in deceit. But as we have been approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel, even so we speak, not as pleasing man, but God who tests our hearts. For neither at any time did we use flattering words, as you know, nor a cloak of covetousness. God is our witness. Nor did we seek glory from men, either from you or others, that we might have demands as apostles of Christ." And if you read that section of the scripture, you read that part of his letter, it's really interesting. It is almost as if Paul is defending his motives. And I am wondering, why would Paul have to take a section of the letter to tell people that he's already helped, that his motives are pure, right? This isn't believers in Thessalonica's initial introduction to Paul. They're familiar with Paul's ministry. Paul has already added value to them. As a matter of fact, later in the book of 1 Thessalonians, you'll see the Apostle Paul actually communicating to them, hey, I tried to get back there to you, but I couldn't, so I sent Timothy instead. So these are people that should be convinced of the purity of his motives. These are people who've been recipients of the value that he's added, yet at the same time, he finds himself, at least in some way, feeling like he has to defend the purity of his motives. He's misunderstood. And I feel like many of us can relate to Paul, because they're people that we can say, not arrogantly, but humbly, we've added value to. We've loved well, we've served well, we've assisted, we've opened doors for them, created opportunities for them, stuck by them when others abandoned them. And I'm not saying that so that we can create some emotion of entitlement. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm simply saying that it is possible to make great contribution to the lives of people, yet those people still be confused about your motives when it comes to the value that you've added. So here's what I've learned. I've learned that to some degree, being misunderstood is inevitable. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't ways we can contribute to being misunderstood. I'm saying you can't avoid being misunderstood. I'm saying that even when you make a decision not to take any action, that inaction is an action that can be interpreted in some kind of way, right? For some people, they're going to say, you're doing too much. For other people, they're going to say, you're doing too little. You're always going to be misunderstood. And so, to be consistently frustrated by the inevitable is to be naive. At some point, I've got to move out of an unbiblical and unhealthy idealism, the way things should be, and I got to step into a biblical realism, the way things are. And here's the truth. To some degree, anybody that does anything meaningful is going to have to manage being misunderstood. If Jesus, who was a perfect man, which means he did everything perfectly, he did it the perfect time, and he did it the perfect way, and he lived a perfect life. If he was misunderstood, then it's naive of us to think we won't be also. So how do we manage being misunderstood? You don't really manage being misunderstood. You manage yourself while you're being misunderstood. And I want to give you 3 truths that have helped me. And my hope is in some way they can help you. So here are truths or axioms that serve as anchors for me when I feel misunderstood, which I often am. And just like any other human, I wrestle with frustration and agitation and sometimes discouragement. But these axioms anchor me during those moments. Here's the first one. You can't expect people to respect sacrifices they didn't see and don't feel. That helped me. Like, say for example, some people just see me filming this video. They don't know what it takes to film it. They don't know the study that it takes to come up with the content. They don't know the time that it takes to come up with the content. They don't know the team that it takes to come up with the content. They don't know what had to be sacrificed for me to come up with the content. But it's just unrealistic to expect people to respect the sacrifice, number one, they don't see. So some people see your results, they don't see the work. So it's just unrealistic to expect people to respect a sacrifice they didn't see or one they can't feel. Meaning that for some people to understand how you feel, it means they got to do what you've done. It doesn't matter how much they love you or how much sympathy or empathy an individual has. No one knows what it's like to walk in your shoes until they put them on. So that anchors me. Here's another axiom that anchors me. You can only make sure that your motives are pure. You can't control if people question your motives. Here's what I've learned, that sometimes the way people see me have very little to do with me. That just like people have a set of glasses that they put on when they're reading scripture, and the glasses that they have on affects the conclusions that they come to in scripture, people have glasses that they put on when it comes to their interaction and their engagement with me. And there are challenges with their glasses sometimes that have nothing to do with me. So I can only control if my motives are pure. I can't control whether or not people question my motives, because sometimes people questioning your motives has very little to do with you, but everything to do with people they encountered before you. So that's an axiom that anchors me. And here's the last one. Being misunderstood doesn't mean you aren't valuable. It simply means other people can't see your value. Another way that I frame this axiom is this. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with your value. Sometimes there's something wrong with people's vision. And very often when you're misunderstood, you can be rejected by or resisted by the very people that you're actually able to help. So you've got to make sure, and I've got to make sure, that we don't start questioning our value just because other people can't see the value in what we're bringing. And these axioms that I just articulated are axioms that have anchored me, and I believe that they're axioms that can anchor you. Because if you're going to do anything meaningful in life, you're going to be misunderstood. And managing being misunderstood isn't managing other people. It's managing myself in the midst of it. And too many people are depending on you to make a difference. Too many people are waiting on the value that you have to add for you not to add the value because somebody else can't see the value in you. All right? So let these axioms anchor you when you feel misunderstood. Take care.